welcome back and thanks for joining me. This is Jonna with Purple Girl Crafts. Today we're going to be making this double sliding card, and I did put a back on this one. And then when you slide those two panels, they will slide open to reveal two more messages or anything else you want to put in there. And then again, the back piece I did add so that when you slide it, it can just be displayed with it fully open, or it can be displayed when they are fully closed, either way. So it will stand up. The only die cuts I used were for the circles on this. So let's grab our tools and let's get started. So I grabbed my scoreboard. And the first things we're going to need two circles. And these are 4 7/8 inches, but you can use a 5-inch circle. And you will need 2 of those. Next, we will need one circle, and this is 4 3/4 inches at the top, centimeters are at the bottom. And then we need another one that is 4 1/2, and this will be the top piece for the card. Then we need one piece, and this is going to be cut at 3 5/8 by 3 1/2. You'll need 2 pieces, and these are going to be cut at 2 3/4 by 3 1/2. Then you'll need 2 pieces. These will be cut at 2 by 3 1/2. And then for the layers, we will need 2 pieces, and these will be 3 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then 2 pieces, and these are cut, and I already stamped on these, 3 1/4 by 3 1/2. And this paper, it had variations of purple in it, so this is the piece that just went side by side. So I just cut out, and then I stamped that already. Then we also have my little giraffe that I drew, so we're going to add him to the front of the card. So that's all we need the scoreboard for right now. So we're going to move that, and we're going to grab our trimmer, and we're going to take that one bigger black piece, and on the 3 5/8 side, we're going to line this up at 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm just going to turn my track so you can see, and I'm going to start at 3 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go down to 3/8. So you're leaving a 3/8 inch on each end. Then flip the card all the way over and do the same thing. Put your blade at 3 1/8. And then go down to 3/8 of an inch. And you should have that. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut those little strips out. You could use your machine, but it's just easier just to cut them with scissors. I'm just cutting them straight off. You can also use your knife if you're not comfortable using the scissors. So you should have a piece that looks like this. And this is for the piece of plastic. And I'm just using a Ziploc bag, and I've just cut down a piece. Now you want this to be about 2 3/4. It's going to fit inside that little groove. You can make it just a little bit smaller. You want to make sure it's not hanging over on either side. And it just needs to be long enough just to go around it. So once it's on the end, I'm just lining it up till it's at the edge and then over. So I'm going to put tape, and I'm going to use my red tape. And we're going to put tape just on one end of this baggie. And you want to also make sure it doesn't go over the edge so that it doesn't get stuck to the card. Okay, so now that you've got tape on the one end, make sure it's flat. You're going to put this on your card. So just go ahead and lay it on. So the tape side is on just the edge where you want it to start. And then you're just going to fold that piece over. So I'm just going to take where the red tape is, I'm going to line it up so it's just right at that line of the edge of the paper, and then fold it over. So I'm going to lay this down so it doesn't move. Get it lined up. And I'm just going to peel off that piece of plastic or the tape cover. And then just fold that on itself. Now you don't want to fold it too tight. You want to make sure it's got a little bit of room to move. So just kind of just fold it over and then just pop it on there and then just secure it down. Then take your piece, that flat, that extra flap, hold it up, and then just trim it off. So this is for the mechanism of the card. And this is the normal mechanism that you would use for this, the double sliding card. All right, so now we're going to work on the edges, and I'm just going to use just a very small punch. And this one is, I think it's 4 millimeter. And I'll put that down in the body of the description. I'm just cutting off the edges. That will just help so that they don't stick out, because this is going to be a really close fit to the card. All right, so and you can use scissors if you don't have a punch. Just go ahead and just round those corners with your scissors. All right, so now we're going to work on the other parts of the mechanism. So we've got the 2 bigger pieces, and these are going to fit on here like this, and they'll slide. And then the other smaller pieces will go on those also. So these are going to go on top. Before we put these on, we need to put the decorative paper, and we want to punch these out. Now, I realized when I was making this that I did not punch the bigger pieces. Go ahead and punch one end of the 2 bigger pieces, because I didn't, and you'll see later that I have to use my scissors because they stick out just a little bit. So if you want to do the same thing now, you can just corner those edges on those pieces. And then we'll do the same thing on our pattern paper. So I'm just going to do just the 2 ends, because the other end's not going to stick out. And these will get fastened to the 2 smaller pieces. And you want to put the rounded end on the rounded end. So I'm going to glue these down. You can use your tear tape too if you want, or you can use, your tape roller, whichever works best for you. I'm just making sure it's lined up. That one looks pretty good. And then we'll do the next one. I'm just making sure that it's lined up and the border's even all the way around. And I'm just going to use my phone folder and just make sure that glue is secure. Now we're going to fasten these to the card, and so they're going to go on the back side of each one. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to grab my ruler and a pencil, and you want to line this up so it's about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. So I'm just going to put a little mark at 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to put glue on this piece. And then I'm just eyeballing it, but you want to make sure it's centered between the card itself on the 2 sides. It's about 3/8 of an inch that you have on each side. And then make sure there's no extra glue on it. All right, so we'll do the other one. So same thing, we're just going to put it at 3/8 of an, or 3/4 of an inch from the end. Just put a little mark just so I know where to put glue. Because you want to make sure there is no extra glue on any of these. And again, line that up. And then I'm just making sure that these are the exact same length from the end, which they are. All right. So now these are going to get secured to that piece. But before we do that, we need to put the top pieces on. So again, before you put these pieces on, you want to cut those corners if you haven't saved. See, I didn't cut my corners on here, so I'm going to have to use my scissors to cut them because they stick out just a tiny bit from the card. All right, so those are secure, so I'm just going to just push that glue all the way through. All right, so let me move some of this out of the way. All right, so now we're going to work on the sliding part of the mechanism. So we're going to put tape on just this one edge. And you don't want too much. You want just enough that it's going to hold it. Again, making sure that it does not go over the edge of that piece. So that's the first one. And then for the second one, you're going to put it on the patterned side of the paper because this is going to pull from the bottom out to the left. So it needs to be face up. So that's done. And then again, just make sure that tape is on. So now we're going to secure these. So this one's going to get put on this side. And the easiest way to do it is, whichever way is easier for you, is just to peel off that tape. And then I'm just going to line up that edge with the edge. So I just turned it just so I could see a little bit better. And I'm just going to line it up with the edge of the paper. Just like that. And as you can see, when you pull it, it will just pull. It's going to get stuck right now because it doesn't have anything to retract it. So once we put the other one on it, you'll see it'll work a little bit better. Then we're going to put this one the opposite direction. So it's going to pull in the opposite direction. So you want to pull the tape off of here, turn it upside down, and put it on the plastic side, again, on that edge. Making sure it's lined up, and then just secure that down. And now, as you can see, I know it's upside down, but as you can see, when you pull it, it will work. Okay, so now for the circle piece, this is what's going to get put on here. And as you can see, it's a very tight fit. It will fit just in there perfectly. And as you can see, I should have rounded those corners. So now you can see where they're sticking out just a tiny bit. So I am going to use just my baby scissors. And I'm just going to cut just that edge just a little bit, just rounding it just a tiny bit. Okay. Now when we put this down on the card, you'll see that just that little bit is what I cut off. So now this fits in there just a little bit more secure because it fits in perfectly. If there is still some sticking out from the base piece, you can cut that off once you glue this down. So I'm going to use these little pop dots. Now these pop dots are very thin because you don't need this to be very thick. You don't need it to be the normal size of paper. If you can see this, how thin it is. Actually, let me grab one of my other ones. So these are the ones I was going to use. So as you can see, let me turn this just a little bit better. So you can see it's about double the height. This only needs just enough so that it's got room for that card to slide. And so it's just about the same height, so it does work. This way it also doesn't make the card too bulky. So I'm just going to put all of these on, and I'm putting about 5 or 6 on each side. All right, so we're going to secure this to the card. So again, I'm going to pop all of the pieces off. Now you can either use your little poker or you can use your hand and your nail, just however you want to get these off. All right, so I'm going to turn this piece upside down, put it the right way, making sure it's going the right direction. And then I'm just going to just kind of just lay it down on one end, making sure it fits in there and making sure it's even. As you can see, when it slides beautifully. Now, the stamped images on there, you want to make sure that when this slides out, that they're not more than 2 inches in, because then you won't see the full sentiment. All right, so the other piece is going to go on the top. So what we're going to do for this piece, I do have one smaller one, and this one's about 4 7/8, and I'm going to use that one for the back. So I'm going to put pop dots again. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put them on this other side. So we're just going to put them on those 2 ledges. And you can see it's just poking out just a little bit. So I'm just going to make sure, I'm just going to cut off just where it's showing just a little bit outside of the card. And that's just on that little lever. So as long as it's secure, it's not going to hurt it and do anything. It's not going to damage the mechanism at all. All right, so I'm going to pull off these pieces. And we're going to take that bigger circle and we're going to just line it up. So I'm just going to line it up with the edge of the card, just on the bottom. I'm going to line it up before it attaches and then just secure it to those pop-ups. And then this is the card that we have so far. All right, then we're going to put on this piece on top and this piece I'm just going to glue down. Try to line up the squares just a little bit. You're not going to see it, so it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up, which I did not line that up straight. That's why it looks uneven. And then this one's going to go on top of it. Just making sure I've got that nice border all the way around. And then my little giraffe, he is going to sit right on the top. I think I'll have to use pop dots on him too. Because again, these are not very thick, so I don't think it's going to add that much height to the card. I'm just going to center him right in the middle, just like that. How cute is this? This is such a fun card to make. Okay, now for the back piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my scoreboard. I'm just going to do about a 1/2 of an inch. Just a little crease line. And this is going to get secured to the back of the card. So just on the top, it'll be the fold. And then I'll line it up with the bottom of the card. And then just glue that down. So I'll put glue on the flap. And I'm just going to turn this over. I'm going to line up the bottom of the piece. And then I'm just going to tuck that flap in. Sorry, I'm off camera so you can't see it. And then I just secured it. And that way, again, when it's standing, it's got that little piece to stand. And then we're going to put a piece of white cardstock in here. So that it's got someplace that you can write a message if you want to. All right, so we're done with those. Let me move those out of the way. Then I also decided that we needed to do some heart or arrows. So I've got just a tiny, tiny little arrows that we're going to put on here. And these were just from a die set that I had. You can do an arrow, you can draw an arrow on there, however you want. So it's just a very small, tiny arrow. And I'm just going to put it just on the edge. Now, it probably would have been smart to just pull this out first and do it, but I left it inside. And then we're also going to take some hearts and we're going to just put those just on the front of the card. So we're going to put one by him and then we'll put one at the bottom. I'm going to do the darker one. Oops, wrong glue. All right, then for the inside, I just cut a piece that would fit just inside that circle. And I'm going to go ahead and just round the corners. And then we're just going to secure that inside the card. You could have done another circle. I just like this because it kind of brings the theme of the outside of the sliders onto the inside of the card. And this piece is going to be at 3 5/8 by 2 7/8. 8. And then I'm just going to put a couple hearts on here. So I'll put just a couple hearts at the bottom. And as I finish up this last heart, I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. If you haven't checked out Facebook, I did put some new images out there that are for you to download. I want to say thanks again. Happy crafting, and I hope to see you real soon. Bye bye.